A black mother just wanted to fly home safely with her baby in first class. But when a flight attendant slapped her and called her out of place, everything changed. What the crew didn't know? Her husband owns the entire airline. But will the truth be enough to save her from what comes next? If you believe in standing up to injustice, hit that like button, share this story with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more true-to-life tales of courage. Now let's begin this unforgettable journey at 35,000 feet. It was supposed to be a peaceful flight. Horizon Airlines Flight 227 was boarding smoothly out of Atlanta, bound for Los Angeles. First class was already half full. Business travelers checking emails, retirees flipping through in-flight magazines, and a few weary couples settling in for the cross-country ride. Then came Amara Jackson. She stepped on board with quiet grace, balancing a diaper bag over one shoulder, and her 6-month-old son, Isaiah, nestled close to her chest. At just 32, she carried the calm of someone who had been through storms far greater than turbulence. Her skin glowed deep brown under the cabin lights, her eyes tired but steady. Seat 3A, first class window, was hers. Some passengers glanced up, a few looked away quickly. The man in 3B, middle-aged, silver hair, expensive watch, adjusted his suit jacket and offered no greeting. But Amara didn't need their approval. She simply eased into her seat, kissed Isaiah's forehead, and exhaled. Moments later, as the plane reached cruising altitude, Isaiah let out a soft, fussy cry, the kind that babies make when the cabin pressure shifts. That's when she appeared. Claire Ramsey, mid-40s, blonde bun pulled tight, uniform crisp and authoritative, and a face carved into a permanent look of disapproval. She marched down the aisle like she owned it. She stopped at 3A and glared. "Keep that baby quiet," she snapped, "or you're gonna have to move. People pay good money for peace up here." Amara blinked, startled. "He's just a baby," she said gently. "He'll settle down." But Claire leaned in closer, her voice dropping into something uglier. "People like you don't belong up here." Amara froze. Her grip around Isaiah tightened. The words, laced with venom, hung in the air like smoke. The cabin went quiet. Before Amara could speak, defend herself, or even breathe, Claire lifted her hand and slapped Amara across the face. The sound echoed. Amara's head jerked sideways. Isaiah whimpered louder, startled by the jolt. Gasps rippled through the cabin. A coffee cup clattered to the floor. Fingers hovered over phone cameras, too stunned to press record. Amara didn't cry. She turned back slowly, her cheek burning, her eyes locked on Claire's with a fire that had no words. Not rage, not fear. Something deeper, something ancient. And then, a deep, commanding voice cut through the silence. "Claire Ramsey, you're done." It came from the overhead speakers. Every head turned upward. Claire's face turned pale. The storm at 35,000 feet had just begun. Amara didn't cry. She didn't raise her voice, didn't shout, didn't even flinch. Instead, she shifted Isaiah gently in her arms, brushing his soft curls away from his forehead, then reached for the small blanket folded in her lap. With deliberate calm, she tucked it over her son's legs, her fingers steady, her breathing quiet. Her cheeks still burned, the red imprint of Claire's hand bright and raw. But her eyes never left Claire. They didn't beg. They didn't tremble. They looked through her. Around the cabin, the tension cracked into uneasy whispers. Some passengers fumbled for their phones, belatedly tapping record as if waking from a trance. Others leaned toward each other, murmuring behind hands. A suited man 2 rows back muttered, "She brought a baby up here? First class?" But a younger woman near the aisle, Latina with soft features and sharp eyes, whispered, "Did that flight attendant just slap her on a plane?" Yet through it all, Amara remained still, but not silent. Inside, her mind was racing, not with fear, but memory. Flashback, 3 years ago. The courtroom had been packed. Cameras lined the back wall. She stood at the defense table, young, brilliant, unstoppable. A civil rights attorney going head-to-head with the city's police union over the wrongful arrest of a black teenager. She'd won the case. But not the war. The media turned on her overnight, called her radical, angry, divisive. Talk shows dragged her name through the mud. Her law firm folded under pressure. And just like that, her license to practice was gone. Amara walked away from it all. She thought if she stayed quiet, kept her head down, she could raise her son in peace. But today had other plans. Back to the present. Claire stood frozen, her hands still slightly raised, as if unsure whether to apologize or strike again. Her voice wavered, shrill now. That voice over the intercom, it's fake. Probably some prank by a passenger. The man in 3B scoffed quietly. Doesn't sound fake to me. Then, a new voice entered the scene. Captain Holloway. He stepped out from the cockpit, tall, silver-haired, eyes sharp beneath his pilot's cap. "Miss Ramsey," he said, his tone clipped and cold, "please report to the galley immediately." Claire's spine stiffened. "But Captain—" "That was a direct order." She turned slowly, color draining from her face, and began walking back down the aisle. The hush that followed her was colder than the air conditioning. Amara didn't watch her go. She closed her eyes, pressing her cheek against Isaiah's head. Her silence wasn't weakness, it was a warning. The kind that comes before everything changes. The silence that followed Captain Holloway's order was thick enough to choke on. Claire's heels clicked stiffly as she marched down the aisle toward the galley, her spine rigid, her shoulders twitching like she might whirl around and strike again. But she didn't. She disappeared behind the curtain without another word. And for a moment, first class just breathed. Some passengers whispered. Others glanced nervously at Amara, unsure what they were witnessing. Was this woman a victim, or had they missed something? Was there more to this story? Amara adjusted Isaiah in her arms, his soft, sleepy coat a gentle contrast to the tension still humming in the air. Then she stood. She turned to the passengers closest to her and spoke calmly, but with unmistakable steel in her voice. "That man on the intercom? He's not just a voice." A pause. "He's my husband, Marcus Ellison." Heads turned. A few blinked, and then came the sound of collective recognition. Gasps, murmurs, the kind of disbelieving sounds people make when they realize they've underestimated someone by miles. Marcus Ellison, CEO, visionary, billion-dollar mind behind Horizon Airlines. The man whose name was printed on every in-flight magazine and whose face had graced countless business covers. And Amara, the woman Claire had just slapped, his wife. "Wait, what?" someone whispered. "You're kidding," another said, their phone now trembling in their hand. In row 4, the silver-haired man who had scoffed earlier now sat straighter, his face slowly shifting from smug to mortified. Just then, the cockpit door opened again. Captain Holloway re-emerged, holding a tablet. His expression was unreadable, but his words were clear as day. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said firmly, "I've just spoken with Mr. Ellison directly. That voice over the intercom was, in fact, him." Gasps rippled again. "Miss Claire Ramsey has been officially suspended pending further review. She'll remain out of service for the remainder of the flight." He didn't wait for applause. There wasn't any. Just the stunned silence of realization crashing down on everyone like a sudden drop in altitude. The curtain at the back of the galley shifted slightly. Behind it, Claire stood frozen, white-knuckled, gripping the edge of a counter as if it might keep her from crumbling. Her mouth twitched. Her skin flushed. And then, through clenched teeth, low and venomous, she muttered, "She doesn't know who she's messing with. I'll fix this." Claire didn't cry when she got suspended. She waited. She waited until she was alone, in her car, engine off, parked in a quiet corner of the employee lot, before pulling out her phone and opening the live stream. The camera showed her in soft lighting, hair slightly undone, uniform wrinkled just enough to suggest distress, not sloppiness. Her voice came out low, trembling, almost a whisper. "I never thought I'd be that person, the one who gets hurt doing her job." She sniffled, not too dramatically. "I've flown this route for 12 years. I've dealt with turbulence, emergencies, unruly passengers, but never anything like this." Another pause, a practiced blink. "I was assaulted, on duty, in first class, and now I'm the one being punished." She ended the stream with a plea. "Please, don't let them silence workers like me." She hit post, and then she waited. She didn't have to wait long. Within an hour, the comments began trickling in. Within 3, they poured like a broken dam. "We stand with you, Claire. Entitled passengers think they own the skies. Let me guess, she pulled the race card?" But that was just step 1. The real weapon came later that night when a video began to circulate. It was short, 22 seconds, blurry, but edited masterfully. In it, Amara appeared agitated. She raised her hand slightly, maybe to adjust Isaiah, maybe to push back tears. But the clip cut right there. The next frame showed Claire stumbling backward, arms out like she was fending off an attack. There was no sound, no context. But context wasn't what people were hungry for. They wanted drama. They wanted a villain. And Claire gave them one. Within hours, the video hit 1 million views. By morning, Justice for Claire was trending #1 across platforms. Talk shows booked aviation safety experts to weigh in. Commentators used phrases like out-of-control passengers and abuse of privilege. Some networks blurred Amara's face. Others didn't bother. She looked aggressive, one guest said on a panel. You can't just throw your weight around because your husband's a CEO. It didn't matter that no one had seen the full video. It didn't matter that Amara hadn't said a word during the entire altercation. The edited footage, paired with Claire's teary video, was enough. And behind the curtain of sympathy and outrage, Claire's connections went to work. The flight attendants union, tight-knit, predominantly white, and fiercely protective of their own, began crafting a narrative of self-defense. Claire's closest ally, a senior rep named Ted Rollins, took the reins. He drafted a public letter, on behalf of aviation workers everywhere, condemning the airline for suspending Claire without due process. He circulated anonymous witness statements, supposedly from crew members on the flight. One claimed Amara had been verbally aggressive. Another said Isaiah had been uncontrollably disruptive. One even wrote that Amara looked like she was about to snap. All of it was fabrication, but all of it was designed to sound plausible, especially to the people who already believed it. News anchors clung to phrases like allegedly struck and ongoing investigation, painting the incident as a he said, she said. In truth, it wasn't even about truth anymore. It was about perception, and perception was shifting. In a diner in Ohio, a middle-aged couple discussed it over eggs and coffee. Did you see that video? The woman clearly raised her hand. The husband said, yeah, CEO's wife or not, she doesn't get a pass, his wife replied. In a Facebook comment thread under the local news post, someone wrote, she's just using her husband's name to dodge consequences. Typical. By the end of the week, Claire had gone from suspended to sympathetic icon. Talk of her reinstatement began bubbling online. Petitions surfaced. Even some who originally condemned her started to second-guess themselves. Maybe we judged her too fast. We weren't there. We didn't see it. And through it all, Amara remained silent. Not because she didn't care. Not because she was weak. But because, once again, the truth was being buried under a very familiar story. The kind told about black women who don't know their place, who speak too strongly, sit in the wrong seat, carry themselves with too much dignity. And Claire? She knew exactly how to spin that story. The wheels touched down with a gentle screech, but the atmosphere inside the cabin was anything but calm. As the Horizon Airlines flight taxied toward the gate, Amara clutched Isaiah tightly against her chest. He was dozing now, warm and soft, unaware that the world beyond the cabin doors had already begun to twist against them. She adjusted his blanket, checked his hat, took a breath. Then the seatbelt sign blinked off. Passengers rose, bags shifted, the usual routine. But when the aircraft doors opened, chaos was waiting. Outside, just beyond the glass jet bridge, a crowd had gathered. At first, Amara thought they were airport staff. Then she saw the signs, hand-painted cardboard, phones raised. Faces twisted with something far darker than confusion. Justice for Claire. No VIPs above the rules. She hit a worker. She should be in cuffs. Their voices were loud, angry, coordinated. As she stepped off the plane and entered the jet bridge, the volume exploded. There she is! You think you're better than us? Get back to coach! Security guards stood nearby, but they didn't act. They watched, hesitated. Amara tried to move quickly, keeping her head low, her arms wrapped around Isaiah like a shield. But the crowd surged forward. A woman shoved her shoulder. A man in a trucker hat pointed and screamed, "Welfare trash in first class!" Another jabbed a sign at her bag, catching the strap and jerking it sideways. Isaiah slipped, half falling from her grip. Amara caught him in time, but the jolt made him cry out in panic. She spun around, shielding him, heart racing, breath caught in her throat. "Back off," she yelled, voice cracking. "I have a baby." But the crowd only pressed closer. Then came the flashing lights, sirens. 2 police officers appeared, weaving through the chaos. Relief? No, not this time. The taller officer, white, buzz-cut, hard eyes, pointed straight at Amara. "You, hands where I can see them." Amara blinked, confused. "What, are you serious?" Put the baby down and step back. You're being detained for disorderly conduct and assault of a flight attendant. What? She cried. I was the one who... She slapped me. There are witnesses. There's video. The officer didn't flinch. I said, put the baby down. Now. Isaiah sobbed louder, sensing the shift in the air. Amara clutched him tighter, backing away. That's when Marcus arrived. His 6'4" frame cut through the chaos like a blade, suit jacket flaring, jaw tight, eyes blazing. Officer, that's my wife. You're making a mistake. The second officer stepped in front of him. Sir, stay back. This is an active situation. She was the one assaulted. I'm Marcus Ellison, CEO of this airline. You're detaining the wrong person. But the taller cop reached out, grabbing Amara's wrist, wrenching it behind her. Isaiah shrieked, Stop! You're hurting her! Marcus moved forward, but was shoved back. Touch me and I'll arrest you too, the officer barked. Last warning. Isaiah was ripped from Amara's arms. A female officer appeared, someone from Airport Social Services, lifting him away as he screamed for his mother. Don't worry, she said without emotion. We'll keep him safe while this gets sorted. Amara's knees buckled. She wasn't just losing her freedom, she was losing her child. The cuffs clicked, cold, tight, degrading. Her cheek still bore the faint red mark from Claire's slap. Now her wrists carried their own brand of injustice. And just beyond the crowd, tucked near a pillar, stood Claire, hair down, civvies on, a large pair of sunglasses perched on her nose. But even through the lenses, her smirk was unmistakable. She lifted her phone. One click. A photo of Amara in handcuffs, her baby screaming nearby. Claire lowered the phone and smiled. Round one, she whispered. Checkmate. The cell was cold. Concrete walls, metal bed, thin blanket, and silence. Not the peaceful kind, the kind that presses against your chest and makes it hard to breathe. Amara sat on the edge of the cot, wrists still raw from the cuffs, her palms resting gently over her stomach where Isaiah had been just hours ago. Now only emptiness. Her cheek had faded from red to purple. Her soul, though, still simmered with something darker. She wasn't here because she'd done something wrong. She was here because she'd been too quiet for too long. Footsteps echoed down the hallway, voices low, suspicious. Then came the laughter. Not kind laughter. The kind that slithered. 3 women entered the block. Inmates, all white, all staring at her like she didn't belong even there. So you're the CEO's wife? One of them sneered. Fancy suit, big words, and now, look at you. Amara didn't answer. You think you're better than us? You don't belong here either. A fist shoved her shoulder. Another grabbed at her jumpsuit. She fell to the floor, covering her head, gasping as a knee caught her ribs. Then, a voice. Rough, commanding. From behind them, back off. She's under my wing now. The attackers hesitated, turned, and saw Tara, mid-50s, tall, wiry, braids streaked with gray, eyes sharp like broken glass, but steady, still, like a mountain that had seen it all. She stepped forward, arms folded. Hit her again, Tara warned, and you deal with me. The women backed off, muttering under their breath as they retreated. Amara sat up slowly, wincing. Tara knelt down beside her and offered a hand. Amara took it. You ain't the first black woman they've tried to silence in here, Tara said. But you might be the first who has a shot at making them pay for it. That night, under the flickering cell light, Amara remembered. Not the flight, not the slap, but her last case. A 15-year-old boy named Elijah, accused of stealing a bike, no evidence, no witnesses, just a confession forced after 12 hours in a room with no lawyer. She'd fought like hell, got the charges dropped. But when she stepped outside the courthouse, the cameras were waiting. The police union smeared her. Talk shows called her anti-cop. Her firm dropped her. That was the moment she walked away from law. She thought silence would protect her, but silence only made room for lies. The next morning, Tara returned with a whisper. There's a lawyer on the visitor list, one of mine. He owes me. She reached into the hem of her sleeve and pulled out a small folded paper. Worn. Smudged with pencil. Write what you need him to know. Keep it short. Hide it in his jacket pocket when he hugs you goodbye. No cameras in the visitor exit. I'll distract the guards. Amara hesitated. Then she took the paper. She wrote, Marcus, I'm okay. It's a setup. They'll bury me if we don't act fast. Claire has the union. The cops, the narrative. Use the law. Fight loud. No more silence. She folded it, tucked it between 2 seams in the visitor jacket, and as Tara led her to the meeting room, she felt something stir inside her. Not fear, not defeat, resolve. The kind that came not from anger, but from clarity. She had one weapon left, one they thought she'd forgotten how to use. The law. And this time she wouldn't use it in court. She'd use it like a blade. Marcus hadn't slept in 3 days. His suit was wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot, his phone battery barely hanging on, but his mind sharper than ever. He was done playing nice. Across from him in the hotel suite turned war room sat Evelyn Cross, his lead attorney. Steel gray bob, glasses perched at the tip of her nose, voice cool as ice, and eyes that missed nothing. They'd already tried everything. Filed appeals, demanded release, sent letters to the media. But without hard proof, everything came down to a lie that the world had chosen to believe. Until, what about the junior attendant? Evelyn asked suddenly. The one you mentioned, freckles, nervous. Marcus blinked. Laya? He remembered her clearly now. Young, soft-spoken, maybe 22. She'd handed Amara a blanket on the flight, apologized, trembled. He pulled out his phone, scrolled past hundreds of threats, headlines, news clips, and there she was. Laya Matthews, private account, but the profile picture matched. He messaged her. This is Marcus Ellison. My wife is in jail for something she didn't do. If you saw anything, please come forward. No response. An hour passed, then 2. Marcus was about to give up when the screen blinked. A message. One line. Meet me in person. No texts, no calls. I have something. The next morning, Marcus met Laya in the back corner of a small cafe near LAX. She wore a hoodie pulled low, eyes darting toward the window every few seconds. She handed him a flash drive. I didn't mean to record, she whispered. I was scared, but I hit the camera on my tablet by accident when Claire started yelling. I never deleted it. Marcus stared at her. Leia, you have no idea what this means. I think I do, she said, her voice trembling. That woman Claire, she slapped your wife, for no reason, none. I saw it all. Back at the suite, Evelyn loaded the video, high definition, crisp audio, from the perfect angle, just behind first class. The footage played. Amara, quiet, rocking Isaiah. Claire, approaching, yelling, and then the slap, clear, loud, undeniable. No aggression from Amara, no raised hand, just stillness. Strength, dignity. Evelyn didn't speak for a full minute. Then, release it. Now. The video hit the internet like a lightning strike. Within 20 minutes, the hashtags flipped. Justice for Claire dropped from trending, and Stand with Amara rose like a wave. The original post hit 1 million views in an hour, then 5 million, then 10. Comment sections lit up like wildfire. She never even moved. That flight attendant lied. This woman is in jail for getting slapped? News anchors scrambled to update their stories. Reporters who once doubted her rushed to book interviews. Influencers changed sides with captions like, "We were wrong. We see you now, Amara." And in the county jail, Amara was handed a folded newspaper. Front page, a still image from the video. Her face calm, eyes strong. Claire's hand frozen midair, her expression twisted. A caption in bold, new video reveals truth behind airline assault. Amara Jackson was the victim. Tara leaned against the cell bars and grinned. Told you they'd see. Amara closed her eyes and whispered, "It's not over. But now, at least we're not alone." Somewhere across town in a dimly lit motel, Claire Ramsey watched the video from a cracked phone screen. Her jaw clenched, her face pale. The mask had fallen, the lie unraveled, but her eyes, they still burned. And her voice, barely a whisper, curled like smoke. "You think this ends with a video? You haven't seen what I'm willing to do." Night fell hard over Los Angeles. In a quiet suburban neighborhood, Marcus Ellison rocked Isaiah gently in his arms, the child finally asleep after hours of crying for his mother. Their temporary home, a rental arranged in secret after Amara's arrest, was dimly lit, curtains drawn tight. Evelyn had insisted on privacy. But outside, someone had already found them. At 2:13 a.m., a shadow approached the front porch. Gloved hands. A dark hoodie. A Molotov cocktail in one hand, a lighter in the other. One spark, one toss, and the world exploded. Flames burst through the living room window. Curtains ignited. Glass shattered. Smoke rolled into the hallway like a living thing. Marcus woke to the crackle of fire and the distant wail of Isaiah crying. He didn't think. He grabbed the baby, threw a wet towel over them both, and burst through the back door as flames swallowed the walls behind them. They made it out. Barely. But the house? Gone. Back at the county jail, Amara was being set up. Again. It started with a routine cell inspection. Then came the shout. "Contraband!" A guard held up a small baggie of white powder supposedly found tucked inside her prison-issued blanket. Amara froze. "That's not mine," she said instantly. "I've never touched drugs in my life." But the officers weren't listening. The tall one with the buzz cut smirked. "Funny how you keep causing trouble wherever you go." He started writing up a new charge: possession with intent to distribute. Another felony. Another nail in her coffin. But she wasn't alone this time. From across the block, Tara moved fast. She ducked under the sleeping racks and whispered through the bars to another inmate. "Call the lawyer. Now. Say the words. They're setting her up. Marcus will know what to do." By 9 a.m., Marcus was standing behind a podium outside the Horizon Airlines headquarters. Cameras clicked, reporters swarmed, but Marcus wasn't angry anymore. He was surgical, precise, controlled. He tapped the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, this ends now." He held up two pieces of evidence. One, a security camera still, captured from a neighbor's doorbell cam, showing the figure who'd set the fire, face partially visible. The man was later identified as a contractor linked to Claire Ramsey's cousin. Two, a signed affidavit from a prison whistleblower stating that a senior guard had planted drugs in Amara's cell at the request of a union contact, someone long loyal to Claire. And then he dropped the bombshell. "My wife was jailed based on false charges, doctored footage, and union pressure. She is now being targeted by the same system meant to protect her. And last night, someone tried to kill us." He let the words hang. A pause. Then he continued. "We demand an immediate investigation into the flight attendants union and into any officers involved in evidence tampering. This isn't just about my wife. This is about a system that silences truth and punishes those who dare to speak it." By noon, the internet had caught fire. The hashtags changed again. #free Amara now, union cover-up, protect black mothers. The video of the house burning, caught by a neighbor's phone, aired on every major news outlet. Inmates inside the jail whispered about it. Some of the guards, those not in Claire's pocket, began keeping their distance. And for the first time in weeks, the tide wasn't just turning, it was rising. In a cheap motel across town, Claire watched it unfold from the edge of a stained mattress. Her hands trembled. Her eyes darted across the TV screen as every lie unraveled. She'd lit the match, but the fire was now everywhere, and she was starting to burn. Still, her voice was calm. "If the system won't protect me, I'll find someone who will." She reached for her phone and dialed. "You said you handle problems, right? Well, I've got one." The courtroom was packed. Journalists lined the back wall, their fingers poised over keyboards. Cameras hovered discreetly, live streaming every second to millions watching from home. On the left, Amara Jackson, freshly released from jail, seated beside Evelyn, her quiet strength palpable. On the right, Claire Ramsey, hair neat, dress modest, eyes red from perfectly timed tears. Beside her, Ted Rollins, still clinging to the last threads of union influence. The judge banged the gavel. "This court is now in session. Case number 23-4791, the state versus Claire Ramsey." The prosecutor stood first. He played the doctored video as Claire stared solemnly at the jury. In the footage, Amara's hand twitched. Claire recoiled dramatically. The context, again, conveniently missing. Claire dabbed her eyes. "I feared for my life," she whispered from the stand. She was aggressive, entitled. She thought being a CEO's wife made her untouchable. Several jurors nodded slightly. One wrote something down. Evelyn didn't flinch. When her turn came, she rose, graceful, measured, and turned toward the judge. "With permission, Your Honor, I'd like to present the full, unedited video." The judge nodded. The screen changed, and then it played. Crystal clear. Amara, calm, silent, holding her child. Claire, loud, cruel. The slap, undeniable. A gasp echoed through the courtroom. Evelyn stepped closer. No aggression, no raised voice, no threat. Then she held up a printed email. Exhibit B, an email sent from Claire Ramsey to a burner account connected to a known contractor. The same contractor who attempted to burn down Amara Jackson's home. The courtroom froze. The email subject line was shown on the screen. "Handle it. Make her disappear." Followed by a chilling message, "I'll pay double if the baby's with her." One juror covered her mouth. Another shook his head, visibly shaken. Evelyn turned to the judge again. "We traced the account to an IP address registered at a motel registered in Claire Ramsey's name. We have surveillance, bank transfers, cell tower pings." She paused. "And one final piece." She clicked the remote. A voice recording. Claire, whispering, "She thinks she's won. I'll bury her. I'll make the world think she deserved it." The courtroom erupted. Claire stood up so fast, her chair toppled. "This is a setup," she screamed. "You're all being manipulated by a privileged black woman playing victim. She doesn't belong in first class. She never did." The judge slammed the gavel. "Order." But the mask was off, and the real Claire Ramsey stood in the open, raw, hateful, and unhinged. After an hour of deliberation, the jury returned. 12 faces, 12 truth. The four women stood. "We, the jury, find the defendant Claire Ramsey guilty. Guilty of assault. Guilty of defamation. Guilty of inciting public unrest with malicious intent. Guilty of attempted arson through proxy. Guilty of conspiracy to commit a felony." The courtroom held its breath. Then, applause. Slow at first, then louder, stronger, uncontainable. Tears welled in Amara's eyes as she turned toward Evelyn, who gave her a single steady nod. Moments later, Amara rose from her seat. The courtroom doors opened. Marcus stood waiting in the hallway, Isaiah in his arms, dressed in a tiny navy suit and matching socks. He held out the child. Amara took him, held him close, and stepped into the sunlight. The crowd outside cheered. "We love you, Amara. You showed the world justice." Reporters called her name, but she didn't stop to answer. She just walked forward, Isaiah on her hip, Marcus by her side. Her name now cleared, her dignity restored. And Claire Ramsey, she was led out the back in handcuffs. No cameras, no cheers, just silence for once. She had to sit in the place she always believed others didn't deserve. The back. A week had passed since the verdict. The media still buzzed. The hashtag still trended. But Amara Jackson, she had chosen silence again. But this time, not from fear, from clarity. Inside the sunny garden of a community center in South LA, Amara stood in front of a modest podium, holding Isaiah on her hip. Reporters had gathered, but there were no red carpets, no bodyguards, no titles, just a woman who had survived the worst and chosen to build something better. She looked at the crowd, mothers, teachers, teenagers, survivors, and spoke. "I've been offered a throne, the kind people fight for, but I don't want a throne. I want a path." She held up a folder, blue with edges with the words embossed in silver, "The Isaiah Project. This will be a legal aid and emergency response fund for anyone who's been profiled, humiliated, silenced, or shut out of the skies, schools, or streets because of who they are." She turned to Marcus, who stood beside her, hands in his pockets, eyes filled with pride. He stepped forward, took the mic for just a moment, and said, "Justice doesn't need a throne. It needs courage. And my wife has more of that than any boardroom can hold." Meanwhile, Claire Ramsey sat alone in a gray prison cell, her orange jumpsuit faded with time. She stared at the small TV bolted to the corner wall. The headline flashed, "Amara Jackson nominated for National Justice Award, symbol of modern civil rights movement." A photo followed, Amara standing tall, Isaiah in her arms, the sun at her back. Claire's lip curled. She clicked the TV off and stared at the wall. This wasn't how her story was supposed to end, but it had. Later that night, Amara sat beside Isaiah's crib. He was fast asleep, hand curled against his cheek, breath slow and soft. She reached into the drawer of her desk and pulled out the blanket from the flight. The same one Laya had handed her. Still smelled faintly like lavender. She smiled. The world hadn't been kind to her, but she'd found kindness anyway. And now she would give it back. Her voice closed the chapter. Soft but strong. She slapped me, thinking I'd break. Instead, she gave me the spark to rise. If this story moved you, even just a little, take a moment to let it stay with you. Because this wasn't just about a slap on a plane. It was about dignity, about standing tall when the world tries to shrink you. It was about truth winning. Not because it was loud, but because it didn't give up. Amara's journey reminds us that justice isn't always quick, and it's rarely easy. But with courage, with community, and with just one voice that refuses to stay silent, change is possible. If you believe in stories like this, stories that speak truth, challenge bias, and lift up the human spirit, please hit like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Mr. Mac's Stories for more powerful tales that matter. Your support doesn't just help the channel, it gives our team the fuel to keep creating content with heart, meaning, and impact. From all of us at Mr. Mac's Stories, thank you for listening, for feeling, and for standing with stories that spark something real. Now, let's get back to the stories that change us, one voice at a time.